We left our dear Roger standing with his member agonizingly sheathed in insufficient cloth in a schoolboy uniform, getting ready to live his lifelong dream of having the shit kicked out of him by a woman. So, Miss Florence walks in. "Take off your cap in the presence of a lady," she snapped, putting down a leather cricket bag. I obeyed. She looked at the birch which I had placed carefully on the table and picked it up, stroking it with long, slender fingers tipped in green nail polish. Did green nail polish even exist back then? I digress. "It'll do," she said. Somewhat to my surprise, she was not wearing her usual sensible daytime apparel, but was in all white, in a schoolmistress's gymnasium or tennis skirt. Her long, muscled legs shone bare and creamy, and ended in thick white cotton socks, adorably fluffy, I thought, with laced canvas rubber-soled tennis shoes. At her waist bobbed a short pleated skirt that covered her thighs scarcely halfway, and above this her narrow waist swathed in a tight white blouse, damp with perspiration, so that to my horrified delight I could see her bare breasts shimmering through the thin, wet cotton. The imprint of her nipples jutted like gorgeous red strawberries on top of the luscious pastry of her teats, their fullness unadorned by any corsage or other support. The top two buttons of her blouse were carelessly open, revealing an expanse of ripe, curved breast, and her hair swept back in a bushy, businesslike ponytail. "Gym kit," she said briskly. "Always best for a beating, as it helps me get a good run-up. Now, you know why you're here, boy, so let's get on with it. Trousers down, of course, and turn around. I don't want to have to be disgusted and see anything that I shouldn't. We have all morning, so we can make quite a meal of you." I obeyed. As I was unbuttoning my shorts, she rummaged in her bag and took out a pair of white kid gloves. But as she bent over, I could not restrain my lustful curiosity. Her darling little skirt rode up over her fesses, and I saw that her own bum was bare. She wore no knickers. Her peach was a vision of pure beauty. She heard my gasp of admiration and desire, and whirled round to confront me, letting her skirt drop. Her eyes were steely, but without anger, as though she had expanded all passion in her first discovery of my wickedness, and the imposition of her harsh penalty. She nodded at me with dreadful wisdom. "Peeking, eh? Only to be expected. You make a habit of looking at girls' bums, do you?" "Oh, no, miss. I mean, that is. Never mind. You'll take extra punishment for that little impropriety, you realize." "Yes, miss," I mumbled, hanging my head. "Miss Kane can warm you up for Mistress Birch," she said slyly. "A tight 3 dozen, I think. Cheer up, boy. It could be worse. Although I can't think of how. Now knickers down, please, and bend over. I'll take you across the ping-pong table." I lowered my unbuttoned shorts to reveal my naked bottom, cupping my manhood rather inadequately in my palm. "What?" she cried. "No knickers? Why, you filthy, filthy whelp, this is the most disgusting—" "But, miss," I interrupted desperately, "there were none left for me to put on, and since I knew you intended to punish me on the bear—" My voice trailed off feebly. I knew her scorn was just. A lady's scorn is always just. And against my palm I felt the stirring of my penis beginning to rise. "What is the most you have had from the cane?" she asked. "On the bear, I mean. On knickers doesn't count." 4 dozen, I think, miss," I said. "For being knickerless, you shall now take an extra 3 dozen, she said coolly. making 6 dozen in all, sets of a dozen with a minute's pause. And that, whelp, is even before your proper correction begins. They have a whole system here. Wow. Don't get caught doing anything bad on the dark residence, Jesus. As you say, I murmured. From her cricket bag she withdrew a long, whippy staff of yellow wood with a crook handle, and the tip splayed like a snake's tongue. I think I'll take you bare from the waist down, she said thoughtfully. So socks and shoes off too, and not your shirt high up on your back. It looks more tasteful that way. And I like to see a naughty boy dance on his bare feet as he's whipped. I obeyed, feeling the spiny wooden floor uncomfortable on my bare soles. You can bend over the table now, she said airily. That's what we normally... I think that will probably be suitable. And I'll get a good run-up. It must be 30 feet right across the room, so I can skin you properly. She said this quite matter-of-factly, as though I were no more than a fowl for plucking. I gulped, and my breath was hoarse as I took the position, not in fear of the pain, although I did dread it, but in fear I would blub and humiliate myself by being unable to take her punishment. An awful pain which is the mark and the price of sublime humiliation at a lady's hands. I watched in awe as she slipped the thin leather gloves over her fingers, one by one, taunting me with her grace and power. I bent over the table, my legs spread and my bum facing her, high up, and I clutched the sides of the table for support. The edge of the board bit into my belly button. Despite my anguish, my penis stirred strongly, then rose in a smooth arc to its full erection. I could not disguise it from her gaze, however much I shuffled. She uttered an exclamation of disgust, and I heard her whistle softly. Good. Do you always get like that before a caning boy? No, miss, I said miserably. I can't help it. You know that. Well, you'll have to get rid of it. Yes, miss. If you can't make her behave after Miss Kane visits your bottom, perhaps we should visit her too. We must have you seemly for Mistress Birch, mustn't we? She flipped the cane against the swollen bulb of my penis, right at the distended pee-hole, and I groaned a promise that she, his penis, would behave. She tickled my bulb for a while, looking down at it and breathing quite sharply until she drew away. To business.